Welcome back. You're now watching the political segment on The Weekend Show. Rivers State government has been in the news for the last 1 year. What makes this worse is that different factions go from one court to the other to get one judgment or the other. In recent times, it's been announced that, according to a ruling by Justice Abdul Malik, the CBN has been instructed to suspend allocation to Rivers State government. What are the facts? In 2004, President Olusegun Obasanjo suspended allocation to Lagos State government because some local government councils were created which was believed to be unconstitutional. The problem with that is when allocations are suspended, who suffers? Lagos, for instance, has a population of about 20 million people. Moving to Rivers State, you had some members of the State House of Assembly who were sponsored by the People's Democratic Party to run for the State House of Assembly election. At some point, they felt they were in good terms or on the same page with the governor and decided to step away from their party. And then there were court injunctions, and all of a sudden, some of them have come out to say, oh, we never left the party, and some say we're still members of the party, which means we haven't vacated our seats. The problem, however, is we now have two factions. Let's remember that at some point, the National Assembly building was demolished. We've seen different intricacies of what's happening in Rivers State. But bringing it back to the people, there's a faction of 4 people who remained members of the State House of Assembly, while there are 27 people who are in court. The budget for the state was presented to 4 people. Now, this has gone to different courts, and there have been several court rulings. And now, some of the courts have said the 27 people should be returned as legitimate members of the State House of Assembly. However, there was some peace agreement between the governor, the former governor, and the president, which the current governor has faulted at the moment. Back to the facts, if CBN has been instructed to stop allocations to the state, what are the implications on the people? However, the governor of the state was seen in a video recently saying that all salaries would have been paid by the 31st, which was about on Thursday, and so October salaries would be paid. But what happens in November? We do hope they find a middle ground, but this is quite unfortunate because when elephants fight, who suffers the ground? Joining us to have this conversation, we have
Barrister Monday Ehimare Jeffrey, who's the Principal Solicitor, MJ Ehimare & Co. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thanks for joining us on the show. So could you start by explaining the legal basis for the court's decision to halt Rivers State allocation? What led to this ruling?
All right, thank you. First of all, I'd like to say happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You see, I was here some time ago on the Bellows issue, and I also commented that it was funny for some set of lawyers to keep stating that these judgments are conflicting one way or another. Now, I'm going to make the same submission in this issue. Now, if you check the system of government, while coming up before even getting to university, to law school and all of that, we were taught that the purpose of the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary is to have a check and balance system of government so that one person does not assume all the power to be able to do and undo or make some certain decisions without caution or being checkmated. Now, in this instance, the judgment from the Federal High Court by Honorable Justice Abdul Malik, it's actually a very sound judgment. I will explain to you why. Now, prior to this time, there were a series of court cases. There were a series of court cases. There were a series of applications before various courts, even onto the courts of appeal. Now, in all of this process, Fubara actually withdrew his counterclaim in one of those processes, stating that what that implies naturally is that whatsoever claim that was brought before the court is correct. And the court gave a ruling, which was also upheld by the Court of Appeal, that in such an instance, you can't come before us seeking for an appeal when you've already withdrawn your counter claim, stating that, okay, A, B, C is my position. Now you forfeited yourself, and you cannot blow hot at the same time blow cold. The law does not accept that. Now, you went back to your state, you presented a bill to 4 members of the assembly. Now, the position of the law, what brought that assembly into being is Section 90 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which the governor of Rivers State took an oath to protect the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in total, whether it is right in his eyes or not. But by virtue of the fact that the Constitution creates his office, gives him the power he enjoys, he vowed to protect that same Constitution. Now, I will draw your attention to Section 96 of the same Constitution. Section 92, if I'm not mistaken, states that the assembly must be from a number of 24 members to 40 members, not exceeding 40 members. That is what makes up the House of Assembly. And Section 96 says 1/3 is what gives you a quorum.
Good, because I was about to ask you about quorum. So regardless of the fact that 27 members had stepped away and they have that dance which has been going on between Abuja and Rivers State, the absence of a quorum, how important is that in the scheme of things?
Yes, if there is no quorum, you can't present a bill. The House is not properly constituted. The Constitution is very clear. It is black and white, very, very clear. Its provision is members of the House of Assembly should not be less than 24 and should not be above 40. I think Section 92, if I'm not mistaken.
So let's make something clear.
Yeah.
Now that the courts have ruled that the 27 defected members should come back and all, why is it so hard for the governor to represent the Appropriation Act to the House of Assembly? Because if I'm correct, the law and the courts have said these guys are legitimate members of this House of Assembly.
Yes.
So all it takes is for the governor to represent the appropriation bill to the House. Why is that so hard?
Sir, you know, all of this is ego. Let me explain this, because I like giving an explicit, a proper explanation on issues like this, so I don't get misquoted. Now, it was very clear from the Court of Appeal that these persons are still members of their parties and they are still members of the House of Assembly. Presenting this bill to 4 persons is actually a slap to the judiciary.
Let me take you 2 steps back, talking
sir.
about a slap to the judiciary. The same judiciary has voided some people's candidature and seats for the same reason.
Yes,
This
sir.
conflicting rulings is part of the big problem. So now that we're saying it's a slap to the judiciary, we have people who have lost their seats because they come from one party to the other. So why is it that what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander?
Sir, what is the yardstick? How do you define a member who defected from one party to another? Now, if I say I'm a member of AIT, I work with AIT, I should have an ID card showing that I'm a staff of AIT before I could even get access from the gate. I should be registered as a member of your staffs. I should be on your payroll. If I'm not being paid salary on the following month, I will be able to take AIT to court because I have previous subsequent correspondence showing that I actually related or I'm actually employed by these parties. Now, on going to court, they were the ones that shot themselves in the leg. I want to specifically clear the air on the issue between Fubara and Winke. Winke is a very smart man. And whosoever advised him to study law did him a lot of good.
He also has a wife who is
also in the judicial system. Now, let me tell you something. The law himself, it is very difficult to be biased because you must make reference. I've stated this here, time without number. You must make reference to certain provisions of the Constitution or case law. Now, in this instance, sir, now, Fubara should have, what I expected its legal advisors to have done was to tell him this is the position of the law and not to get paid and reach their pockets going to court. Now they went to court in the first instance. They withdrew their claim. What does that? I'm coming to the court and I'm telling you, sir, you have offended me. This thing A, B, C is wrong. And at the end of time, you also bringing your defense, you now withdrew your defense. It means you have admitted what I said.
I'm not a lawyer, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
Verbal contracts are valid. The fact that these people, I think there's a press conference of sorts where it was said that they were leaving, even though they didn't tender their resignation officially. If there's any form of evidence, and maybe these are 2 poles apart.
Yes.
The fact that we do know, and it's also been reported allegedly that we can say he never told them to leave the party. They did that on their own, whatever. So they all do have faults in it. But the biggest problem now is who will suffer for it? The people of Rivers State. And just to clarify to our audience, there was a report which stated that the governor of Rivers State had shut down NNPC and the likes. The Commissioner of Information has come out to say that was fake news and they've not shut down all companies and NNPC in the state. But let's get back to you.
Sir, in such instance, I would like to get a question again.
So, verbal agreements can classify as contracts even in Nigerian law. And so if I come out and say, this is what I'm doing, and maybe there's a video, the fact that they've not tendered maybe their resignation in paper, but they had announced, because I also know that in the House of Reps, for instance, some members send a letter to the speaker, and then once it's announced that XYZ is moving from this party to the other, it's classified as they've moved. They don't necessarily have to go back to their party and do all this paperwork that you spoke about.
Yes, sir.
And that still flies. These guys had come out to say they were leaving the PDP. So they vacated their seats.
Okay. Sir, there is what we call, in criminal matters, there's what we call atos rea and mens rea.
Okay.
Before the commission of the crime and after the commission of the crime. Sir, I said I'm leaving this seat and I'm still sitting. Did I leave?
I'm not going to answer that question.
Okay, because of time
Yes,
now, we have to go. But how do you see this case now unfolding in the coming weeks?
Now, I see, what I would say, the decision of the court was in order. Why? It actually protects the Rex. A bill has been passed by 4 members of the assembly. Now, the court in its infinite wisdom, this does not form a quorum. I want you to put in mind, any law without sanction is mere moral. You wake up in the morning, it is moral for you to greet your parents, your guardian, people you're living with. But if you don't, okay, it's either you skip the breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or there's another sanction, then it becomes a law. Now, in this instance, the court stopped CBN from sending allocation in order to protect the Rex in this matter. They are not saying for January, the money is not coming in January, it's not coming in February to you. It doesn't mean that when you do the intention, the court say, present your bill before the proper, do it the proper way.
The current instruction and from the court, can this be appealed by Wike and his faction?
Fubara
and his faction.
Yeah.
Can they appeal?
Yes, they can appeal, sir. They can appeal.
So this is something we'll still be monitoring because of time, and thank you so much for your clarity. You also spoke about morality, and from the little I know about moral and natural law, if I walk in here and slap you, we don't need anybody here to say this is right or wrong.
Yes.
Which brings us to the case of what's happening in Rivers State and what's happening in Nigeria. We know what is right or wrong. Most times we focus on the president, but there's a lot of rubbish going on in the states, in the local government, in our legislative chambers. We can't have people who are meant to be honorable acting in dishonorable manners. And that's why you now have an honorable being called a dishonorable honorable. And that is what it is. You can't be threatening to end someone's life or make someone disappear with 50 million naira and threatening that they should call the IG of police. It's a disrespect to the Nigerian people, to the people who elected you, to the Inspector General of Police, and also to the average Nigerian and the House which you represent. He also claimed he was a senator, which was false representation of himself because he's a member of House of Reps. Also a huge disgrace to young people because we've all been saying not too young to run, and young people go in there and pull moves like that. Ministers of the Federation can't be speaking to people as if they're doing them a favor. Immigration, Minister of Interior, you can't say someone is being investigated and then the person finds his way all up to the plane before he's being pulled out of it. Yeah. I know Didi has something to say about fuel prices before we go.
I'm so surprised that they keep increasing it. At this point, by December, we may be buying fuel for 1.5.
I bought fuel for 1,150 naira. Let's remember that about 15 months ago, it was much, much cheaper, about 10 times cheaper, and that's quite disgraceful. There's no explanation for it if we have crude oil in Nigeria, and the owners of refineries like Dangote is constantly giving press releases and complaining. That's the much we can take on today's episode of The Weekend Show. My name is Andy Madaki. You can follow me on social media platforms at Andy Madaki.
And I'm Eddie Frank. You can follow me also at Didi_. And don't forget to catch up on all our episodes on YouTube at Weekend Show NG and follow us on Instagram and X at Weekend Show. Thank you so much for watching us.
Have a nice weekend.